Hello lovely students and welcome back to English with Lucy. I have an amazing video for you today, if I do say so myself. I am going to teach you all of the English tenses. Lots of you have been asking me for a tenses review and I say go big or go home. The saying to go big or go home means to put in all your effort or to do nothing at all. I'd rather put in all of my effort. So today, in under 30 minutes, we will go through all 16 tenses. You will walk away from this lesson with a much better understanding of all the English tenses. What is more is that I have created a free PDF that goes with this lesson. It's got everything we're going to discuss today, lots of examples, and it's also got exercises so you can put what you've learnt in this lesson into practice in those exercises. If you would like to download that free PDF, just click on the link in the description box, enter your name and your email address, you sign up to my mailing list, and the PDF will arrive automatically in your inbox. Then every week after that, you will automatically receive my free weekly PDFs. You'll also receive all of my updates, course information and offers. It's a free service. You can unsubscribe at any time. Now, before we get started with today's highly important lesson, I would like to thank our sponsor, Lingoda, your new language school. You can attend the Lingoda language school from the comfort of your own home, 24/7 at your own pace. Cut the travel time, not the quality. I love Lingoda because it doesn't have that one-size-fits-all approach. It's got an interactive curriculum. You can choose between the 5 lesson types: speaking, vocabulary, grammar, communication, and reading. You can pick and choose the topics that you need to work on and the skills that you want to focus on, making the process so much more efficient. They have amazing qualified teachers and their average group class size is just 3 to 4 students. You can learn English, business English, Spanish, French and German from beginner to advanced level. Prices start from just €6 per group class and you can choose from various options. There's a monthly subscription, or you can take one of their marathon courses where you can earn up to €400 cashback upon successful completion of the course. The best part is that you can experience a 7-day free trial, completely free. That's 1 week's access with 3 entirely free group classes. Click on the link in the description box to sign up for your free trial and to get up to 40% off your first marathon course or your first month subscription. The link is down there in the description. Let me know how you get on. Okay, so today we're learning all 16 tenses in English and I'm going to give you loads of examples so that you can learn them and use them yourself. Firstly, I think it's best to have an overview and then we can go more in depth into each group. I know that going over 16 tenses all in one lesson may seem like a lot, and it is. This is a big lesson, but they do share a lot of characteristics, so seeing them all together can make them easier to learn and remember. Let's go through them first. We have the present simple, I eat chocolate. The present continuous, I am eating chocolate. The present perfect, I have eaten chocolate. The present perfect continuous, I have been eating chocolate. Then we move on to the past simple, I ate chocolate. The past continuous, I was eating chocolate. The past perfect, I had eaten chocolate. Whenever I say had, I can't help but go, oh, I had eaten. And the past perfect continuous, I had been eating chocolate. Oh, I just can't not do that. Now moving on to the future, we have the future simple, I will have a toothache after all this chocolate. Just kidding. I will eat chocolate. The future continuous, I will be eating chocolate. The future perfect, I will have eaten chocolate. And the future perfect continuous, I will have been eating chocolate. Last group we have is conditionals. The conditional simple, I would eat chocolate. The conditional continuous, I would be eating chocolate. The conditional perfect, I would have eaten chocolate. And finally, the conditional perfect continuous. I would have been eating chocolate. Can you see how many similarities there are between all of these tenses? Now let's look a little more closely, starting with the present tenses. The first tense that you learn in English is usually the present simple, and that's for good reason. It's actually the tense that native speakers use in around 50% of their written and spoken communication. We do use the other present tenses quite often too, so they are all really, really important. The present simple, I work on Tuesdays. This is used to talk about general statements, habits, and facts. The present continuous, I am working now. This is used to talk about actions that are happening right now. The present perfect, I have worked at a pub. We use this to talk about past events or past actions that have present consequences. And the present perfect continuous, I have been working for 3 hours today. This is used to talk about an action that started in the past and continues to the present. Okay, the structure of the present simple. Like its name, it is fairly simple. We have the subject plus the base form of a verb, except from in the third person singular. And this always catches my students out when they're relatively new to learning English. In the third person singular, we add an S. So for I, you, we, and they, it's I work, we eat, they play, you do. But for he, she, and it is she works, he cleans, it smells. Another exception is be, the verb to be. To be has its own forms in the present simple. I am, you are, he, she, it is, we are, they are. As I said before, we use the present simple to talk about general statements, facts, and habits. We also use it to talk about scheduled events like plane and train times. Here are some examples. I am a woman. My name is Lucy. This is a general statement or fact. Mary meets her friends on Friday evenings. That's a habit. The train to London leaves at 8 p.m. That's a scheduled event in the future. Our dog eats the cat's food, and that's a habit. A habit we're trying to conquer at the moment. We don't know why he started doing it, but he has since we moved house. I hope all of that's clear. There are lots more examples in the PDF, and there is a quiz for every tense. So please do download that. The link is down below in the description box. Right, let's move on to the present continuous. We use the present continuous to talk about things that are happening at the moment of speaking, but be careful. In general, there is an exception, we can't use state verbs, words like hate, love, want, for example. There is an exception there, and I will mention it. It's to do with slang. The structure of the present continuous is subject plus be plus verb ing. It rhymes. Subject plus be plus verb ing. You can use that. Here are some examples. I am teaching English. They are baking cookies. We can also use this tense to talk about things that we think are temporary. Compare these two sentences. James lives in Manchester. James is living in Manchester. In the first sentence, I use the present simple because I think that his state is more or less permanent. But in the second sentence, I use the present continuous because I think his situation might be temporary. He's living in Manchester now, but I don't know what might happen in a few weeks or months. Perhaps he's studying there or he's working there for a short time. Now, you will hear native speakers use state verbs in the present continuous in this form, or to show this meaning. I am loving my Christmas jumper right now. Love is a state verb. I'm not meant to use it, but it means right now a trend that I'm enjoying is my Christmas jumper, which I must say, I think this is a very nice Christmas jumper. I actually had another option today. It was between this one, which I wore last year, but I got this one on a second-hand website. Very happy with myself. Anyway, back to the tense lesson. You'll also hear people say, no, I'm hating that song right now. It means it's a temporary state. For some reason right now, I don't enjoy that song temporarily. I'm hating it. So when you hear teachers say never use a state verb in the present continuous, take that with a pinch of salt. We also use the present continuous to talk about arrangements. This means that we are planning to do something in the future and it involves another person or business. Let me show you an example. I am having my hair cut on Tuesday. Sarah is meeting her parents tomorrow. They are plans, but they depend on someone else. Let's take a look at some examples. Kate is studying business. Temporary situation, happening now. We are meeting our friend next Friday in Edinburgh. Arrangement involving someone else. We are driving home. We are doing this right now in the moment. It is snowing, for example. It did actually snow the other day. It was magical. But enough about my weather. Let's move on to the present perfect. The structure of the present perfect is subject plus has or have plus the past participle. There are three main ways that we use the present perfect in English. The first is to talk about things that started in the past and continue to the present. It's very important to remember that they are unfinished actions. When we talk about these events or states, we often mention how long they've been going on for or when they started. For example, I have lived in the UK all my life, or she has been at university since 2020. William and I have been married for 2 months. Oh, 3 months. Oh, it's our 3-month anniversary nearly. How exciting. The second way that we use the present perfect is to talk about our experiences up to the present. When we do this, we don't talk about exactly when something happened. We are just generally telling somebody about our life experiences. For example, she has been to Canada 3 times. We have met the Queen. I have read all of the Harry Potter books. Finally, we also use the present perfect to talk about past events and actions that have consequences in the present. For example, I have eaten breakfast, so I'm not hungry. Or Mike has lost his keys, so he's going to be late for work. Let's move on to the last of the presents, the present perfect continuous. I've just realised I look like a present and I'm talking about the present tenses. Maybe I should have just made a video about the present tenses dressed as present. Now, we use the present perfect continuous to talk about something that started in the past and continues to the present. And that might sound very similar to the present perfect, but there are a few key differences. One big difference is the structure. We use the structure subject plus has have plus been plus verb ing. I have been eating chocolate, as we discussed before. Now, with the present perfect continuous, we often use it to talk about things that we have been doing uninterrupted that haven't finished. We use this tense to emphasize how long something has been happening. For example, I've been watching that TV show for weeks. I'm emphasizing how long I have been watching the TV show. Or Ellen has been replying to emails for 2 hours already. We use it to talk about things that have been done recently or lately. For example, look, it's been snowing. Or I've been practicing my football skills a lot recently. That's such a lie. Remember, we generally don't use the present perfect continuous to talk about states. You wouldn't say, I have been belonging to a band for a long time. You would say, I have belonged to a band for a long time. Some more examples. They've been trying to call you all day. Or she hasn't been feeling well lately. Okay, we made it through the present tenses. Let's move on to the past tenses. We'll have a quick overview and then we'll go into more detail. We have the past simple. I worked abroad last summer. That talks about past finished actions. We have the past continuous. I was working at 2 p.m. yesterday. That describes a continuing action at some point in the past. We have the past perfect. I had worked there for 2 years before I got my promotion. That's used to describe past actions that happened before another past action or time. And we have the past perfect continuous. I had been working there for 2 years before I finally got my promotion. Very similar to the previous one, but we'll go into more detail. We use the past perfect continuous to talk about past actions. that continued to a past point in time. Let's start with the past simple. This one is nice and easy. It's the second most common tense that English speakers use. We use it to talk about events that happened before the present moment. These must be finished events or actions, and we often say when they happened, although that's not obligatory. The structure is the subject plus regular verb, ed. However, lots and lots of verbs are irregular. And I do actually have a video on some of the most common irregular verbs that could be really useful, so I will leave that link down in the description box. An example, I went to bed at 10 p.m. last night, or Dennis ate a box of chocolates for breakfast. Live your life, Dennis. That sounds like my kind of breakfast. Another example, my husband bought me flowers last week. Not true though, not true. Maybe next week. Okay, let's move on to the past continuous. The structure of this tense is subject plus was or were plus verb ing. We can use this tense to talk about actions or states. One way in which we use the past continuous is to say what was happening at a specific moment in the past. For example, Tom was cooking dinner at 7 p.m. yesterday. We can also use it to give background information about something. For example, Will was speaking to me whilst I was trying to record a video. Or, it was snowing when I went outside. We also use it to say that an ongoing action was interrupted by another action. In this case, it's usually paired with another clause in the past simple. We were eating dinner when he arrived. We were eating dinner over this long period of time and he arrived right then. Or they were chatting about their holiday when Ben called them. Let's move on to the past perfect. The past perfect tense is used to talk about events that happened before another event or up to a certain time in the past. Again, it is often used with the past simple. The structure is as follows. Subject plus had plus past participle. And if you don't do that when you say had, you're not my student. Let's take a look at some examples. When I arrived at the bus stop, the bus had already left. Already happened. Or, you had travelled to 10 countries before your second birthday. Or, she had worked at the company for 5 years before it closed. Or, we had already eaten dinner, so we weren't hungry when dinner was served. Finally, let's discuss the past perfect continuous. The structure is subject plus had been plus verb ing. Now, the past perfect and the past perfect continuous, what a mouthful, are often used interchangeably by native English speakers. There's no difference in overall meaning. Take a look at these two sentences. There's no real difference in overall meaning. I had worked there for 5 years when the company closed, or I had been working there for 5 years when the company closed. No real difference, we can say either. However, you should use the continuous form in these two situations. If you are talking about an action in the past that continued up to a certain time and continued after it, or if you're talking about a repeated action that happened in the past up to a certain point. Let's take a look at some examples. They had been walking for hours before they decided that they were lost. Or, the orchestra had been practicing for months before the concert happened. In the words of Bon Jovi, I think we're living on a prayer because we are officially halfway there. It's time to move on. If you're still here, you're doing really well. Really, really well. Let's have a quick overview of the future tenses. We use them to talk about events after the present moment. We have the future simple. I will work in the summer. This is used to talk about events or actions that we believe will happen in the future. We're nearly certain. We have the future continuous. I will be working at 2 o'clock tomorrow. We use this for actions at a specific moment in the future. We have the future perfect. I will have worked there for 2 years on Sunday. We use this to talk about an event or an action that is planned or expected to happen before a certain time in the future. And we have the future perfect continuous. I will have been working there for 2 years on Sunday. Very similar to the last. We'll talk about that. We use this to talk about an action that will continue up to a certain point in the future. Let's take a closer look now. The future simple, the easiest way to talk about the future. The structure is subject plus will plus base form of the verb. We can use it to talk about things that we think will happen in the future. I think it'll rain tomorrow. I'm sure you'll love this book. We can also use it to make offers or promises. I'll help you carry those boxes. Richard will call you tomorrow. And finally, we can use it to talk about facts in the future. It will be our first wedding anniversary next year. Or our house will be 300 years old soon. Let's move on to the future continuous. The structure is subject plus will be plus verb ing. This tense is used to talk about actions that will be in progress at a certain point in time. These actions will start and end in the future, but we don't know when. I will be eating dinner at 8 p.m. tomorrow. I don't know when I'll finish. It also indicates that an action will be carried out over a period of time, not simply in an instant. I'll be playing tennis tomorrow. That will be a considerable amount of time, maybe 30 minutes to an hour, not just a second. We also have the future perfect. We use the future perfect to talk about actions or states that will be completed before a certain point of time in the future. We often use time clauses with the future perfect, like by or when I'm older. I'll show you lots of examples, but first the structure: subject plus will have plus past participle. Some examples: I will have retired by the time I'm 65. We're using by there to show that final point. Or you will have finished the popcorn before the film starts. Or come over at 9 p.m. My parents will have left by then. Finally, we have the future perfect continuous. This tense describes actions that will be continuing at a certain point in the future. When you use this tense, you're thinking about the duration of that action up to a certain point in time. The structure is subject plus will have been plus verb ing. She will have been living in Cardiff for 3 months in August. Or when I retire next month, I will have been working here for 3 years. Like with most other continuous tenses, we don't usually use state verbs. It should be, I will have had my cat for 5 years this Christmas, rather than I will have been having my cat for 5 years this Christmas. You also can't use the future perfect continuous to talk about finished actions. You just have to use the future perfect instead. Finally, the last 4 tenses are the conditional tenses, and I do actually have a full video on these tenses, which I will leave in the description box, but I'd like to go over them briefly today. We use these tenses to talk about hypothetical situations or an event that depends on another event or state. These conditional tenses often form part of conditional sentences, but they don't always have to. Let's have a brief overview. We have the conditional simple. I would work abroad if I could. We use this to talk about hypothetical actions in the present. We have the conditional continuous. I would be working abroad now if I wasn't stuck here. We use this to talk about hypothetical continuous actions in the present. We have the conditional perfect. I would have worked abroad last year, but I didn't get my visa. We use this to talk about hypothetical actions in the past. And we have the conditional perfect continuous. I would have been working here for longer if I had got my visa earlier. We use this to talk about hypothetical actions that started in the past and continued. It's formed with the subject plus would plus the base form of the verb. I would travel in first class. She would walk to work. Now, these sentences don't really have a lot of meaning on their own, so they're usually coupled with another idea. I would travel in first class if I won the lottery. Or she would walk to work if she lived closer. Would can be replaced with could, should, or might, but this does change the meaning. I am currently considering creating another video on modal verbs. There's one from years ago, but I feel it needs updating. If you'd like a lesson on modal verbs, let me know in the comments section down below. If I see enough of you, then I'll know it's worth making. Some examples. He could get a dog if he wanted. You should see a doctor. I might go to the beach tomorrow. Let's take a look at the conditional continuous. When we use the conditional continuous, we put the focus on the duration of a hypothetical action. This means that we use this tense to talk about a longer action when we want to emphasize or we want people to focus on how long an action would take. The structure is subject plus would be plus verb ing. It expresses an unfinished or continuing hypothetical action, an action which is the probable result of an unreal condition. It's easier if I just show you examples here because it can sound a little grammary. Grammary is not a word, don't use that. But actually I think that's quite good. If we hear a grammatical explanation that we don't like, I think we should call it grammary. I think it's quite fun. Nope, that's way too grammary for me. I would be writing emails if I was at work, but I'm not at work, so I'm not writing emails. He would be walking his dog right now if he hadn't broken his ankle, but he has broken his ankle, so he's not. You can use could, should and might in these sentences, but again, it changes the meaning. You should be unpacking the shopping I just bought, or I could be sitting on a beach in Jamaica right now. Now let's take a quick look at the conditional perfect. When we want to change the past, we use the conditional perfect tense. Of course, we can't really change the past, so this is hypothetical. We talk about what we would have done. The structure is subject plus would have plus past participle. I would have told John not to come. I would have bought that house, but I couldn't afford it at the time. She would have cooked a bigger meal, but she didn't know you were coming. Again, you can replace it with could, should, or might. I could have bought that house, but I didn't. You should have told me. We could have gone if we'd known about it. They might have said, but I can't remember. Finally, the last tense that brings us to tense 16. It is the conditional perfect continuous. We use it to talk about the hypothetical results of an action that started in the past. We use the continuous tense to focus on the duration. As I said before, we look at conditional grammar in way more detail in my conditionals video, which I have linked in the description box, but just as a brief overview, the structure is subject plus would have been plus verb ing. I would have been wearing my red dress if I had washed it. He would have been working in Dubai if he hadn't taken the job in London. Again, you can use it with could, should and might. You should have been feeling better yesterday. She could have been living in Japan if she had taken that language course at university. Right, that is it for today's lesson. I can't believe we've covered the 16 tenses. That's amazing. Now it's time for you to test your understanding. I've got a huge amount of examples and exercises and all of the explanations in my PDF. Just click on the link in the description box, enter your name and your email address, you sign up to my mailing list, the PDF comes directly to your inbox, and then automatically you receive all of my free PDFs, plus all of my news, updates and course offers. It's a free service. You can unsubscribe at any time. Another big thank you to our sponsor of today's video, Lingoda. You can click on their link in the description box to sign up for the 7-day free trial. That's 3 entirely free classes over 1 week. And you can also get up to 40% off your first marathon course or your first month at Lingoda. Don't forget to connect with me on all of my social media. I've got my Instagram, I've got my Facebook, I've got my website, englishwithlucy.co.uk, where I've got a fabulous pronunciation tool. You can click on all the phonemes and hear how they're pronounced and words containing those phonemes. It's quite fun. E. Word. No. You can also follow our vlogging channel, Lucy Bella, where we document and vlog our lives here in the English countryside, and every single video is fully subtitled so you can use it for listening practice and to acquire vocabulary. I will see you soon for another lesson. Mwah! This is used to talk about an accent. Someone in my garden. Oh God! I put my foot in a lamp. Right. That's a scheduled event. That's a scheduled event. What's wrong with me? Interchangeably. Blah, blah, blah.